And it's like heat is in the air. Heat is in the air, right? Man. He was like, yo,
not
okay.
heat in the air. What's up, guys? It's your girl Mel
And Mo.
And we have baby
Cairo today. Because he did not want to go to sleep.
He's not feeling the sleep thing today, so we decided to bring our kid to work today.
Yeah.
But no, on a serious note, we pretty much just wanted to come and actually just address the whole like abstinence thing and what made us get to that point, how we derived at that point, and we just don't want any misconceptions and just a transparent and honest like sit down on like, okay, how did y'all do that? You know what I mean? What made y'all do that? Things like that.
Talk.
Yeah, you sitting down and giving you guys the talk.
The talk.
No, I'm just kidding. But no, on a serious note, like I know a lot of people when they heard like, oh my God, you guys was practicing abstinence until you got married, like y'all saved yourself for marriage. To be very clear, you know what I mean? I didn't meet Mo as a virgin and he didn't meet me a virgin. We've obviously had sex outside of knowing each other, but upon the time and the headspace that we went upon meeting each other, that's the journey that we both are on.
Right.
So I want to at least say that, so nobody's like, oh my God, they saved each other, they sold themselves for only each other up to that very point. And it was like, no, I just want to be clear, that's not really what was going on. I just feel like at the time, the timing, the adequate time in which we met each other, that's the headspace and path that I was on, and it just so happened he was on the same journey as well, so that made it even better for our walk with one another, was being in that headspace. But to speak on like just being abstinence period, I want to say around the time I was in Hawaii and I was going to LMAIC, Pastor James, an extremely
he's powerful
man of God, right? Speaking the truth, no matter, you know what I mean, if you feel like, oh, it's too harsh, or it's never about that. It's actually just making sure, like, you know what I mean, that he's not sparing any feelings or anything by speaking the word of God and being honest, as well as like a father figure for many, you know what I mean? And if you're ever in Hawaii, please go to LMAIC. It's in Waiwa, 321 North Kane Street to be exact, and I know the address so well. Or tune into them and
on YouTube. He's very active on YouTube.
Extremely.
And when I say powerful, I mean it in the fact that I sometimes I feel like he, you know, that definitely prepares for the sermon, but when that sermon starts, I feel like the Holy Spirit really takes in on his body, and it just goes the way, you know, God wants him to say. I feel like I see that every time he gets up there.
Yeah, I would definitely agree 1,000%. And upon being in Hawaii and actually being introduced to that church, etc., I feel like that I was definitely at the right place, right time, if that makes sense. Because even being in Hawaii, I was looking for a church home and I really couldn't even find one that I felt like fit me. I used to be like, all these people in church want this money, XYZ, and not on a negative standpoint, but just in a space where when you're trying to find a church home and you feel like, yeah, this is not for me, or this is not for me, or you're trying to judge everything that somebody is doing, rather than just going to church and actually hearing the word and being led in the right direction. So upon finding the church and actually getting back into the word, because not obviously, but for those who don't know, I grew up in church. But as the military comes into play, you know what I mean, sometimes you kind of go wayward and just live your own life. But coming back,
and college too.
And college, that's a fact.
College.
You know what I mean? When you're on your own, it's not that you're being rebellious, but you just want to explore and do different things and try different things, and not really understanding that all those things, those different trajectories that you go on are not that beneficial for you. I'll say that. But even though that happens, I feel like don't ever let anybody, you know what I mean, hold you to your past or whatever you've done in the past. But getting back to the point that I was trying to make, So, Pastor James, going to that church, I really started to get back in the word on a different level, not just surface level, but more on a spiritual level of actually renewing my mind, if that makes sense. And actually just getting into a place where I was actually in the word, not just relying on other people's prayers or little pick-me-ups and little Bible verses here and there. I was actually getting into the word myself. And upon doing that,
like committed, you know?
Yeah, actually committed.
I think that's what it is. It's like that's was also for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you finish, but like that was for me too. Like you really had to commit to that practicing of abstinence.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So upon doing that, I got on a walk with God where I said, you know what, God, if I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to do it the right way. And not just abstain from sex, but abstain from negative thoughts, toxicity, just everything that just wasn't playing a vital role in my life that I knew wasn't of God. Even purging myself from people and certain things that was around me. I had to go on that journey in order to find not only healing in myself, but just to open up my eyes for like true happiness and not what I perceived happiness to be when, you know, deep down when you go to sleep at night, you're not even truly like happy. You know what I mean? Because you have the ways of the world going on and peer pressure and just trying to feel like you need to fit into this a certain place in life. So upon doing that, upon that walk and just going to church, I used to go to church like Sundays, whenever the church was open, I was going, because at that point in my life, I feel like I sincerely needed that covering, that grounding, and that foundation in order to fully be committed to the walk that I had decided to go on with God. So upon doing that, that's when I made the righteous decision to abstain from sex and actually save myself for marriage and the person that I was going to be with. And many may say like, well, you had sex before, so what would be the difference now? The difference for me is the moment I accepted Christ again and I said, all right, I'm going all the way with God, no matter who it separates me from. Mm-hmm. That was my clean slate. That was me to say, okay, old things are gone. You know what I mean? That's the past. Now, legit, I'm gonna do things the right way and make a conscious effort. Upon doing that, this is how I got to the journey of saying I'm gonna abstain. And I've met people before Mo who, when I explain that to, they would be like, what? You just saying that? Or people would like try to break that routine. You know what I mean?
Like a challenge, huh?
Yeah, almost like a challenge.
Okay,
like, I feel you.
But I'm gonna change your mind.
But you're gonna change your mind for sure. And it's like, aw, poor you. Didn't happen. But again, that was my journey upon getting to that level to be like, you know what? I'm going all the way with this one. And actually just committing to it. And it was a very hard struggle. Very hard struggle. Whew. Very hard.
So don't be so hard on yourself at the same time too, you know?
Oh, yeah, for anybody that's like, oh my God, how do I go through this walk? Because some people I know that abstain from sex and they don't even want to be married. They just are abstaining, you know what I mean, period. And that's for their personal reasons. But I feel like when you get to a place in your life where you're like, I'm going to do something, stay on that trajectory. They said double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So anything that you're doing, don't flip-flop or go back and forth. Stay and actually be committed to that. And it's a very hard struggle, but trust me, it's very doable. In the sense that I know for me, I can't speak for Mo. Upon that time when I was going through that, I had to pray so much because I felt like sometimes my flesh would want to take over, especially when we're dating and you starting to build with that person and you're attracted to that person in such a grand way, and then you're like, oh, but I don't know what it's like. You want to get frisky and you have to keep pulling yourself away from temptation because it's so hard. Temptation is definitely going to arise. Like, we're not robots, you know what I mean? Yeah. But when it did arise, it was just like, come on, God, help me. Take this temptation is coming over me, and I need your help sincerely, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people are going to feel like, yes, you can do it. Don't go.
You gotta hold each other accountable.
Absolutely.
Hold each other accountable.
That's the biggest thing. That's dope. what you said.
Definitely, because that's what it was for us.
Yeah.
There's times I'm like, dang, babe, like, for real? For real?
Facts. And I just be like,
yes.
nope.
And you're like,
nope.
Okay.
Don't let's not even cross these lines, because it's something that, you know what I mean, especially when you come into it and you want to be obedient. It's like,
if I can think of a tip, I like just talking about it made me remember, like, we would pray literally when it hit us so hard, and it's like heat is in the air, right? Man, we was like, yo,
not
okay,
heat in the air.
we'd come into prayer, and a lot of times,
actually, we used to pray as a joke. You don't remember?
You're right. It
was a joke.
It would be kind of in a jokingly way, you know what I mean? But it is still respectful too at the same time. Like,
yeah, it was a serious, but
real.
just doing it in a humorous way where you could just break that tension at that very moment. I'd be like, in the heat of the moment, you just be like, God, take this away now, because we used to just have to laugh about it, because it's honest, like, we are human beings, and at the same time, you just don't ever. I didn't want to sacrifice my salvation just for like that temporary moment of lust and just regret it in the end, because I know what it's like to give yourself to people in that sexual way and feel empty, or just feel like regret, or you feel pleasure in that moment, and in the end you're like, yo, what did I just do? So it was like, to me, like, you know what, I'm not gonna go and just do the same things anymore and just expect this different result from people or who I think I should be with, because they say doing the same thing expecting different results is a sign of insanity, and I just couldn't live that life anymore. And that's just being real. I really couldn't. It's so hard, especially in today's society, when you know that people aren't really like practicing saving themselves for marriage, and the people that are doing it, I mean, it's so far and in between. But there are people, I want to make it clear, there are people who like have had sex before they've gotten married and have very successful relationships, and you know what I mean, that was just their path. But I feel like when you know better, you do better, and upon actually understanding the word of God and really digging deep into that to myself, to be like, look, you got to get this one right, whoever it may be, that's the path that I chose, and it worked out for us. What made you abstain?
It was you gotta admit that, like, yo, I think that sex is a distraction, you know, in a relationship. It interfered a lot after that relationship. Mm-hmm. You know, you get time to think. So you thinking like, dang, I feel like my main focus in that relationship was after the date, how can like we go back? You know what I mean? Like,
fresh little boy.
I was young. You know what I mean? I felt like, so the intimacy maybe mentally kind of lost. Mm-hmm. Just cause of sex too. So I'm like, that low key, you know, made that relationship fail. So I just took note of that. Like, although it's so tempting, you gotta admit it. And I took note of that, and I didn't really, you know, have like the church that, you know, was able to change. Mm-hmm. But it was more of like, I had to find it myself. You know, like I felt like God was just putting it in front of me, like helping me, because maybe I couldn't find the home church, or maybe I was being too picky. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Okay. I can see what you're saying.
So he was just letting me do it on my own, I think. So like, you know, the right
bigger
YouTube,
task.
Yeah, the right YouTube video. So and it's like, it's really speaks to me. I'm like, okay, so that helps me another way, and that helped me want to commit to that promise of, yo, I want to save this, and I actually feel like this is such a big gift to give to your spouse. Like, this is you can't buy this gift. You know what I mean?
But just like you were saying, like, that's like the biggest temptation and distractor in a relationship, because so much times, like, you know, you're in a relationship with somebody and y'all have sex, and now your mind is so clouded and jaded, because like, you're like, oh man, either the sex is really good and you don't see anything else, besides that person, and they could be doing the most.
And that happens too. They're like, I can't leave.
I can't leave. Or, you know what I mean? You gotta really think about it, like having sex with somebody. That's souls tying together. You know what I mean? And your body is not meant to just be with all these different people. Because then when you finally do get married, it's just like so many different spirits caught up.
So it's been a lot of soul ties.
Yeah. So it's like when I was understanding that revelation, I'm like, yo, I gotta be cleansed because I just didn't want that in my bed, especially with the person I'm gonna be married to. So I felt like a lot of times, even when speaking to my friends, it's like the moment you're having sex with the person and I'm like, yo, you plan on being with them like in a like long-term relationship? And 9 times 10 they be like, no. I'm like, well, it's for pleasure, and I understand, because you just kind of think in life like, yo, I'm free to do whatever I want. I'm not married. I'm not tied down. I'm just gonna sow my royal oats in all these different places, and it's just like that happens, and I feel like it brings so much baggage with it. And that's why I say with abstinence, it came to a point of abstaining not only from sex, but just from toxic and negative things, and just a mindset of having the fact to know that, okay, I need to come into my relationship this time around healed and with a free mind and a pure heart, and not any expectation of, oh, he's gonna do this, he's gonna cheat, and just be real with myself and be happy with myself to know, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this the right way. If it doesn't work, that's okay. That's not who God has for me. Ladies, please look at me, ladies. Do not settle for a bozo in waiting for your Boaz.
And that goes for guys too, please.
Don't run around with all these Jezebels. Just please.
Damn, you got a name for everything.
Isn't it Bible? Nah, but you know what I mean? Just save yourself. Really save yourself, and understand that your body, your temple, is a gift to whoever you decide to finally commit to and marry. It is a gift. And oftentimes we take our bodies for granted. It's not to say like because I've had sex in the past that I can't go forth and do this. Listen, you have a clean slate. Today you don't even have to wait. Today, tomorrow, whatever it is, you can start over and realize like, yo, let me try something different. Let me just see how this works out for me. And that's my, you know what I mean, revelation, my story on that.
You know what I like what you said was about being healed. I think that's very important. People aren't healed and they go into these relationships trying to fill, you know, that spot with the other person's
to make them happy and stuff.
Yeah, but you're worrying about that because you're not fully healed. You're in this new relationship where it should be a lot. You know what I mean?
I could honestly say, like, even going into this situation with you, I would honestly say that, like, I had my own happiness prior to me and you. So you were like an addition to my happinis. Like, it was
I
like,
think I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
Like, everything's been really good these days.
And and it was the truth, because I can't really remember a time that it was like I was just actually happy with myself. And a lot of times we jump into all these relationships and you try to like find happiness, like, oh, I can't wait to get a man, or I can't wait to get a girl so I can be happy. And it's like, I had to be happy on my own. Like, I was really living my best life, living my absolute best life, because I was just free.
I was living my best life. I'm just kidding.
I was. And being with him, it was just like an addition of growing with him, and like he became my best friend. Especially that sex wasn't involved. Like, we just did everything together and actually
you really
grew
get
up
to
together.
Know the person, you know.
It wasn't a distractor like, oh, okay, the sex is amazing, or the sex is trash, or whatever you would be thinking, because a lot of times that clouds your judgment of the person. And sometimes we're looking for like this diamond, this shiny diamond, like, oh, he got this, and it's like, no, I just got my diamond in the rough, because I had to uncover.
Yeah, in the rough. And like, we just grew up together. We like grew up together spiritually. I think we grew up together. Not grew up like spiritually, for sure.
Spiritually grew up together, because it's hard, especially doing it on your own. It's hard. It was fun.
We did grow up together a lot, like in the ways of, you know, of of ourselves.
For sure, I'll agree with you for sure on that.
What kind of advice would you give to those that are practicing abstinence, for those women
that are practicing it or want to attempt to practice it?
Like, I'm trying, but it's really hard, because
you have to pray.
Even if you know you're getting married, you know what I mean? You're getting married, you gotta plan the wedding, you gotta do this until you get to the hotel. It's a long process.
It is, but I would honestly just say you have to be committed, and you have to stay in a posture of prayer to really go before God and just be like, Lord, help me. Because sometimes your flesh wants to take over, and it's like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? You have to pray. You have to pray. Even it's not like you have to come before God and say this long, drawn out prayer, but just ask Him, Lord, I'm struggling with this. Please help me in this area of my life. And that's with anything, because if you leave it to yourself to do it, that's an epic fail. I am nothing without God. I know for sure. And and when people see me and they like, yo, you changed so much from what you used to be, and I'm like, oh, that's great. Do not give me any of the credit, because none of this would be possible without God. If it was on my own, I don't even think it would be possible. And that's the God honest truth. Like, none of it would be possible. I will say for sure, a lot of people are like, oh, I know her. I know time. No. You probably didn't even know that person. Don't let anybody, that's a fact. Don't let anybody try to hold you to your past or what they thought you were doing or whatever life they felt you used to live. Even if that's the case, anytime you commit yourself to God and say, yo, I'm on this new path, this new journey, and you renew your mind, that's what you go with. You don't let anybody hold you to your past, because some people will reside in your past more than you do.
Ooh.
And it's just a fact. It's weird, but they do. I can honestly just say, just continue to stay in a posture of humbleness, humility in each and everything you do. I don't ever look at anybody or condemn them or feel like we're better than them or judge them because of the path we decided to go on. That's just the path that it worked for us. And God has blessed our marriage in a tremendous way. And I'm grateful that I actually stayed obedient in that way.
Like, the blessings is gonna sneak up on you. That's the crazy
That's
thing.
a
It's
fact.
like, wait, you're gonna look back.
Boom.
And you're like, wow.
Fact. That is an absolute fact. And it's the truth. So just stay in that posture of obedience and just humble and know, like, God's favor and grace will be upon you for your obedience in that way and what He asks of you. That's really what I can say on that. I waited. God sent me my Boaz. I got a beautiful family, child. He has continued to bless us. I will say that, because at no point did we just stop praying or stop, you know what I mean, being thankful for what He has given us, you know what I mean? So for anybody out there who's feeling like, oh my God, I don't know what to do, yo, please have a keen ear to hear from God and understand that He will not leave you nor forsake you, and His timing is the best timing, the perfect timing.
It is.
It's not about what we want.
Trust in His timing, not yours.
Absolutely.
That's your tip.
That's my tip. That's my tip for the day. So that's my spiel, my journey to abstinence. I'll let you. Because as a man, I'm sure it's men probably looking like, I don't know how he did it.
Yeah. My tip. How did I keep my sanity?
Show me how to love again. Oh.